Have you ever seen someone else's avatar popping up on a shared note on your Evernote? Well, that's a cue that that person who you share the note with is working at that moment on that note. This was born in 2014 when WorkChat was released, and it's called Presence. The large green button you see on the upper right corner of every Evernote note wasn't always there. It was introduced with Evernote 10 to replace the old WorkChat share button or icon. Maybe it was an icon. And before WorkChat, the only way to share a single note on Evernote was to put that note inside a notebook and share that notebook going to the notebooks list. That's right, in the past, we could only share notebooks. And editing those notes was a premium feature. If I share that notebook with a person using a free account, that person would only be able to read the information inside that note. So the introduction of WorkShot changed the way we do many things on Evernote.
So here's my phone, and I'm just scrolling through my notes on my iPhone, and I open a note that I'm using to get ready for a meeting that we're going to have about wobble plates. And I'm working on this with a coworker who's back in the office on his Mac, and he happens to be looking at the same note on his Mac, and he sees that I'm looking at it right now. I pop up. Yeah.
Okay, you may need some context here. Remember, this is 2014, and something like this was huge at the time, and that's why many people are applauding.
That's already kind of cool, because now he knows that I'm looking at what he's looking at. And that's kind of interesting, right? Because people love it when they know that whatever they're looking at, the CEO of their company is looking at the same thing. It actually gives them very important information, right? Because it's a good time to kind of talk about it. We know that we're both looking at this thing. It's neat. And of course, he sees that I'm looking at it, and since it's only fair, I see that he's looking at it. And since the meeting is getting closer, I see that a few other people are popping in and starting to look at it as well. And now we all know, we're not really doing anything yet, we're not really talking, it's just that this is a shared note that we all have access to, and I see everyone who's in it. And now I kind of already know what other people know, and we can start to talk about it. So let's say I actually want to have a conversation about this note. I just click the new message button over there, and Evernote automatically figures out who I am the most likely to want to talk to about this. Right? This is part of the augmented intelligence team at work.
Did you hear what he said at the end? Augmented intelligence. Again, remember this was 2014. Pretty cool, but this is a topic for another video. To this day, I think WorkShot was a great idea, but like I mentioned in a recent post on Medium, Evernote was kind of ahead of its time, and it had to figure out ways to materialize so many of the innovative ideas they had at that time. The thing is, nothing like Evernote existed before Evernote, so naturally there were many problems along the way.
So I hit send on this, and Vitaly can write back. We can have a simple conversation right in the client, saying don't forget to add a CAD drawing. I say thanks. And here's what this looks like to him. Here's what this looks like to Vitaly. So he's on the Mac, and he sees the chats come up this way. And he can add anything he wants. He can add any messages. He can add new notes, documents, notebooks, anything he wants to the thread. All in the clients, all without leaving Evernote.
I can attest that using WorkShot was seamless as in the demo, but there was a little problem. We could, like he said, add other notes to a thread, but if we went to a new node and share that node, even if with the same person, that would create a new thread. If we think about it, it's kind of weird, and it did create a lot of confusion back then, but believe me, it makes sense. So let's keep watching.
Now, when he's looking at his note list, he can actually see how many people are looking at each note and who they are. We call this presence, and it's a really, really elegant feature. It's a way that you can see not just who's looking at the note you're currently looking at, because that's useful, but that's almost like too focused. Because if I'm actually just looking at a note and other people are as well, yeah, it's good to know that, but I probably know that already because you're probably all looking at the same note at the same time for some reason. But it's also not like a list of who's online, because that's actually useless. It doesn't mean anything to be online or offline anymore. Everyone's got phones and mobile devices. You're all kind of partially online all the time, and it's way too many people. So it's very nice, but not enough to know who's looking at the single document or note that you're editing, kind of like Google Docs does. And it's way too much and not useful just to see who's online. What this does is it shows you who's looking at the same stuff that you have access to that you can also just ambiently see on your screen. So now, from now on in Evernote, whenever you're looking at a list of notes or notebooks or anything else, you will see people that you know that you've given access to the same things when they're looking at them as well.
Did you get it? It was never about messaging other people. It was about the note. Think of it as members of a Trello board using the comments section of a card to discuss the card topic. Or maybe members of a shared document on Google Docs discussing what they are working on that document. I can't stop thinking that it was pretty ahead of its time. And I believe that having all the threads in a single space was led people to think of it as a messaging service. And I know that because my clients back then would tell me that it doesn't make sense to use Evernote as a messaging app. And it doesn't. But that was not what Workshot was about. I don't know, I'm terrible with UI, but maybe a window dropping down when we clicked on the avatar. I don't know, but I always thought that the conversation had to be inside or somehow connected to the note. That would make it clear that that conversation was about the note. Yeah, I hope that if they bring it back someday, they bring it back like this. The conversation connected to the note. The presence feature still exists, and we can still see when other people are working on one of our notes. And thanks to real-time editing, we can even collaborate on a note which wasn't available back then. But where is Workshot? Yeah, I think Workshot should have been improved, not discontinued. But I would love to hear your opinion on this topic. Before I go, I'd like to thank all the enthusiasts that have supported or are still supporting the many hours I put into videos like this one. If you want to help, you can buy me a coffee or become a Patreon or YouTube member. Thanks for watching. See you soon.